it later. Just want to double check. Start recording. I think it's all good. Okay. So again, thank you everybody for joining the call. I feel like we were all just together a few weeks ago and we are back together. Today's call and agenda is really about our Grainger safety services as it aligns to our lockout tagout offerings. We have a guest speaker today from the Masterlock company. And as far as who is on the call today, team, very similar to the last time, Matthew's internal partners are Larry Newport, the corporate EH&S manager, David Robinson, our divisional EH&S manager of the memorialization division. We also have Paul Clune, who is the indirect category manager for MRO and our national contract champion. We do have Ken Lowry on the line today, who is the senior manager for the Masterlock company, and he will be sharing with you a behind the scenes look at their offering overall. Talk to the Matthews team directly about how he can partner with you and support you as our customer, and also how he supports our Grainger team members in the field every day. As far as the Grainger team members on the line, we have Senior National Account Manager Amanda Maureen, who oversees the entire Matthews National corporate contract. And then I myself am Nikki Grillo, your Customer Enablement Manager. And I do know that there are a few people on the line who were not here last time. Just so you guys know, the enablement team comes into fruition when internal Grainger partners like Amanda enlist the help of a project lead. Like myself, I am here to lead this project to fruition and also create change management, not only with the customers, but also with our internal Grainger team members as well. As far as our agenda today, we're going to hear from Amanda Maureen about the particular monthly safety goals and initiatives that Matthews Corporate lays out for all of their sites. Amanda's going to give you guys a behind the curtain debrief as to how this came to fruition, the corporate messaging, and from there we will move into the actual offering from the Masterlock company and hear from Ken again about his offering. And then as far as the Grainger team, we will share with you specifically as to what your next steps will look like and how Amanda and I will partner with you moving forward. Sound good, Amanda?
Sounds good. Thanks, Nikki.
Yes, no problem. I will let you take it away.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it. So this is going to be a monthly Drumbeat that we do every month. We'll always record it and send it out for anybody that cannot join live. But basically the goal here is to articulate across the Matthews organization just the services and solutions that Grainger can provide with our partners outside of just being a product distributor. So huge initiative of a Matthews safety team and purchasing team corporately is to make sure that, you know, they're utilizing us whenever they can, not just for products, but for services as well, and get really good line of sight to what those services look like across the organization. So we want to make sure that we align with the monthly goals for Matthews. So you guys have monthly goals. Next month happens to be lockout tagout, which is why we invited on Masterlock. So each month we will have someone joining us, either a manufacturer partner or a service partner or both, just to talk through those solutions that we can help out with that tie into whatever that initiative is for the next month. So that is what you can expect moving forward. And then locally, we'll make sure that our sellers have those conversations with you, because everybody is different on the phone, I'm sure, in terms of what you guys need help with. So we'll make sure that we align locally and have those discussions and figure out really what makes sense for you guys at an individual standpoint. Wanted to give Larry the opportunity to add any color to that, any additional stuff that you had before we hand it off to Ken to talk through the Masterlock offer. Larry, you have anything for us?
Thanks, Amanda. Yes. So when we did our self-assessments earlier in this year, lockout tagout was one of the areas that we expected to score a little bit higher, where we had a lot of outages around procedures, equipment-specific procedures. I was glad to see that from the perspective that we were honest in our self-assessments and we were given that information. It, of course, was one of the areas, too, that we thought maybe a little bit more buttoned up because of the audit process and how things used to be run with the EHS program before. But with that, this group is one that we have vetted, we have looked at. I'm familiar with the way the procedures print out, with the information that they provide, with the support they provide, and it's all in line with our lockout tagout program. So this is something that if you are looking for alternatives to be able to get your procedures done, and it's something that may not be able to be supported with staffing at the site, this is something where that support can come through. This would be something that would be done site specific, but your Grainger rep would be able to help you with this. This would be approved as a vendor through Ariba because it is done through a Grainger. And then this would be the actual service that would be provided from the training we're receiving today. So that's how that ends up looking like. And then with us having lockout tagout coming up next month, we thought this would be a great opportunity to be able to have this as something that looks at if that's a gap you're trying to close as we work towards our gap closure, that this is an alternative or a process that would be approved that you'd be able to do to help put yourself in a position to be able to pass that in the future. That's the thought process from the Matthews side. So Amanda, I appreciate your support with that, and thanks for everyone that was able to join the call.
Awesome. Thanks, Larry. All right, Ken, I think we can give you the floor to walk through that Masterlock offer.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here real quick, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, let me know when y'all got a copy of that.
Check.
Copy.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So, yeah, you've seen the lead screen there, and we're going to be talking a little bit about lockout, tagout, the Masterlock program. Wanted to touch base with you on agenda here real quick. I'm going to talk about the services cost justification for doing a lockout program. A little bit about our products as well, and then of course our services. Obviously, that's what we're here to talk about today as well. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about Arc Flash, because that's another area where we provide services in. Shoot, sorry about that. My screen just went wonky. So I'm in a hotel room at the U.S. Poultry Show in Florida. So I apologize for the lighting, but and then we'll leave a little bit of time for. Go ahead.
Kevin, I'm sorry. This is Larry Newport. I did want to add one other thing. I did forget that element. Arc Flash, almost every site has a gap with Arc Flash. And remember that if you're 5 years past your last assessment, you are due. So that is another element, but this is someone that's providing that gap closure opportunity for us. Sorry about that. I just wanted to add that in there. I want to make sure we're paying attention on the Arc Flash portion as well. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that inclusion. So getting into it, we talk about lockout, tagout, and I'm not sure what level of citations, if you've had any at that point, if you've had any issues with any injuries, close calls, whatnot, any OSHA violations, but really, costs to do services and lockout, tagout are pretty large, to be honest, but the ability to save on your insurance program, your workman's comp program, and the fact that it alleviates the potential or possibility of an accident. We know that accidents can get to be extremely comprehensive in cost and downtime. Not to mention that lockout tagout is always falling within the top 10 OSHA violations and citations every year. And and it's a situation where as a country, we still have a long way to go with lockout tagout. We still unfortunately have over 300 fatalities from failure to lockout. And when we want to talk about injuries from failure to lockout, that number is multiplied by 10. So we're talking over 3,000 injuries per year. And when we're talking about an injury from failure to lockout, it's not going to be a bump, bruise, or an abrasion. It's going to be quite a bit more significant than that. And so the cost for failure to lockout could really be accentuated with that. And then, of course, in the event of a fatality, sometimes there's civil litigation that takes place in that event as well. And of course, that could end up in the millions of dollars. So when you really evaluate the cost of a lockout project, It's a really good piece of insurance that you're putting in place to help mitigate liability against a future incident. So cost justification is definitely there for doing a lockout. So where does lockout tagout start? Well, it starts with a good customized lock program that you put in place. Everybody's fairly familiar with the Masterlock lockout solutions and Masterlock locks. I know that growing up, we used Masterlock on our farm, so I was really familiar with Masterlock throughout. But really pleased to work for Masterlock, as we do have a very good brand name recognition, and the fact that our locks are extremely durable. And what we do for customization in the industry is fantastic. We got the best customization product in the industry as far as locks go. And when I say customization, I mean you can identify these, you can customize them, laser engrave them, the self-laminating photo ID, and you know what, the keying systems that we put together for our customers in terms of key to like sets, key different sets, again, completely customizable. And we really turn that around in a reasonably short amount of time. One of the other things that we do, a lot of people aren't familiar with this program, but this is our lifeguard program. And what it is it's a free of charge service that Masterlock provides our safety customers. And what it is we take the key systems that we're shipping in to your site locations, and we chart those key numbers so that when we receive future orders against that location, we can see what key numbers we've sent in and ensure that we're not duplicating any of those keys going into your facilities. So again, that maintains the integrity of your lockout program to ensure against the key duplication and maintain the OSHA regulation for one key, one employee. A lot of times in my situation within my role, I'm dealing with corporate safety people, and a lot of them feel very strongly about the strength of their lockout program. And I've got to tell you, 9 times out of 10, when I ask them what they're doing to ensure against key duplication within their facilities, I get a deer in the headlights look, because a lot of companies don't take that into consideration. But we have had, I've had myself in the last year about 6 different corporations discover key duplication within their system on accident. And instead of doing all the research to try and find out where the duplicates are, they ended up just scrapping their entire key system, their entire lock system, and just started over utilizing this lifeguard program. So definitely something that you want to take into consideration. Plus the fact that it's free of charge. We don't charge for that. And then when it comes to our devices, one of the things that we do with our device program is what we call a voice of the customer. So essentially, our customers have designed all of our products, because our voice of the customer program goes out into the field. We interview people to understand what are the challenges and the gaps they face with lockout. And what we have found is, a lot of companies find that their employees, their authorized employees, carry a lot of equipment to perform lockout. A lot of the products out there were not universal, and some of them even required additional tools necessary to place the device on the isolation point. So what we did is we devised our product around, not only being durable, because you got to be durable under the OSHA standard, but to be more universal, so that you can utilize some of the same product for multiple lockout applications. And then, of course, no tools required on that. But the other thing that we found, and I'll take the one in the top right-hand corner, for instance, the clamshell for gate valve lockout. One of the issues was, some of our competitors have the clamshells, and when it comes to storing the clamshell, it took up a lot of space. So we came up with a system where, our clamshells are telescoping, but you could take every size we have and nest them together and have the entire set fit within a lockout station. So again, because our customers have told us what the gaps were that they face, that's where we developed our lockout devices, and we continue to come out with new product almost every year to meet the challenges that people face with their lockout. So I'm going to touch base more now on professional services. Obviously, with professional services, there's really 4 main areas in lockout that we concentrate on. The first one would be policy creation. In order to run a solid lockout program, you have to have a good living, breathing document that is reviewed on an annual basis in terms of how you're going to run and manage your lockout program. And that could be at a corporate level with an umbrella policy, and then the site level. How does that differ from the corporate? What different types of machines are at different sites? What different locking capacities, color configuration, differences like that, lock removal process, etc. All has to be documented, all has to be reviewed on an annual basis. I'm sure you're very familiar with that. But the next thing would be the lockout procedures. And realistically, about 70% of the OSHA citations related to lockout tagout are centered around something having to do with the machine specific procedures or lack thereof. The procedures, once again, those also have to be evaluated and audited on an annual basis and inspected to ensure accuracy, make sure nothing's changed on the equipment. But there's also an entire dock flow process that has to take place to ensure that, all the changes have been documented and that and they are signed off on, and that procedure is ready to go for use in the event that you need to bring the equipment down to a zero energy state. The third area that we focus on is training. Obviously, the authorized individuals have to be trained. Again, the document flow process has to take place in that situation to ensure that the employees know how to execute the lockout procedure. And then really the last portion of lockout is around the audit program, making sure that all of this stuff has taken place, making sure that all of this stuff has happened, and evaluating the employee to ensure that they're familiar with their responsibility for the area that they have to lock out or the equipment that they lock out. So under those 4 pillars of lockout, we have our professional services. And I like to use this slide as really what the differentiator is with the Masterlock program. There's not been a lot of changes to the OSHA standard since its inception back in the early 90s. But the philosophy and how we go to market really, I think that the methodology behind our system really sets us apart in the industry. The first thing being the level of expertise that we have. The folks the technicians that we send out into the field, into the marketplace, are typically ex-nuclear, ex-Navy nuclear electricians and high-level mechanical experts. We're really proud of their expertise, and we think they bring probably the most expertise in the world in order to come in and define how to bring your equipment down to a zero energy state. The other thing is we have a different system of isolation point tagging, and it's a serialized numbering system so that no 2 isolation points within your facility will have the same number. Our competition a lot of the times uses an E1, E2, E3, or P1, P2, 3 methodology. But in a lot of instances, take food processing, for example, you're going to have a lot of duplicate machinery lined up. So how are you guaranteed that you're on the right isolation point if you're using the same tagging methodology for isolation points? So our methodology speaks very well to reading out the procedure and matching that up to the isolation point with the instruction on how to de-energize that isolation point. The other thing with our pricing is there's no change in pricing for simple versus complex procedures. It's all based under one price. It is priced per procedure, and inclusive of that price would be all travel, all per diem, time, materials, everything's baked into the costing structure per procedure. And typically we are extremely competitive in our per procedure price, even though that we bake everything into that price. So it really works out really well. It's not like trying to read, you know, a cell phone bill that's got so many different prices on it. It's a very simplistic price. And then on top of that, we have a 5% rebate that is Masterlock Direct. So any of the equipment that you purchase from as a result of a project, we'll cut you a 5% check back direct to you. Won't affect Grainger's pricing or anything. It's a sheer 5% rebate back to you in terms of all the equipment. One of the other things that we do as well, when we do a project, our technicians are utilizing our eLotto software to write the procedures with. And as they do that, there's an algorithm within the software that tabulates, you know, how many locks, how many devices, what type of devices you're going to need to purchase in order to execute these newly written procedures. So that's another additional benefit and output and deliverable for what we do when we're on site. Is there any questions to this point? Okay.
Nothing is
Speaking
in
of
the,
our,
oh, I'm sorry,
oh,
can I
go
just
ahead.
say nothing is in the chat feature right now. Does anybody have any questions and do they want to jump off mute real fast?
Yeah, a lot of times we get a lot of questions about, you know, our system and our methodology on this screen with potential interest in what they're looking for, what they're thinking about, what their needs might be, what their gaps might be, and how we might be able to help them out. So if you do have a question, feel free to speak up. If not, we'll just go ahead and keep going. Okay. Software. So I'd mentioned our eLotto software that our technicians use when they write procedures. Also wanted to speak to the fact that when our technicians are on site writing procedures, we don't require an additional resource from your employees to go with them everywhere. These guys have the level of expertise that they pretty much know what they're doing. All we request is that we have a point of contact that's knowledgeable on your equipment that we might be able to reference once or twice a day for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Obviously, there's situations where you have conduits going through the floor or through a wall. It's tough to see where that comes out, you know. And if you have a little bit of tribal knowledge there on site, that really assists, you know, helping us get the accuracy level to where it needs to be with the procedure. So again, it's not a situation where we need escorts unless that's, you know, your company policy to provide an escort. But that's just another piece to what we offer. But when they are on the floor writing procedures, they're using the eLotto software. And, you know, we got to the point where we thought, you know what, we're using this eLotto software. It's a very robust software to develop procedures. Why not offer it to the public? So we decided to go ahead and market that and sell that to the public as more of a convenience piece, a way to manage your procedures, way to manage your audits, way to manage your lockout process. And so we made it, you know, very customer friendly and able to do that. The other thing is when we do write procedures using our eLotto system, you own those procedures as your own internal IP. We don't require that you have the software in order to make any edits or changes to your procedures. Those procedures are yours. The output is an editable Word format. So whether you purchase the software or not, you can make changes, make edits to those procedures. And you know, we have a lot of success with that because a lot of times our competition holds you hostage over your own procedures by dictating that you have to purchase their software in order to make those edits or changes. Otherwise, they'll charge you to do that for you. But our system doesn't encompass that. So again, the eLotto software is there as a convenience piece to manage, track, edit, change your procedures, as well as track the audits, the personnel, their training. and the ability to physically execute a lockout procedure. So it's a very robust piece of software that is dedicated solely to, a lockout tagout program and procedure management system. So some of the capabilities of the eLotto system is it comes with two apps. You have the writer app, and then you have the inspector app. Obviously, the writer app is for writing procedures, and then you have the inspection app that runs all the inspection processes within lockout tagout. But you can see that there's QR codes involved. We've got multiple languages, the asset categorization, and then the drop-down boxes are pretty unique as well because they're global when you receive the software, but you can change the fields within the drop-down boxes to mimic what your needs might be within the software. And the security level of the software is top notch as well. We've actually implemented the software into some of the federal contractors or military contractors. We were able to pass their safety inspections for within their IT department. So it's a very high level in the cloud type software. That's where the data is stored. So in terms of
Hey Ken, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, sir. We just had a quick question, and before you move on from that, I just want to make sure we answer Mark Ziegenfuss's question. Mark is asking in the chat, on an annual basis, do you need to revisit the need for lockout tagout performance if you haven't purchased? And he also asks, what is the cost of, I call it eLotto, lockout tagout software to own? What is the cost of it, sir?
Yes, so great question. And it's actually called eLotto, so you're actually correct in the way that your naming convention for it. So the cost of the eLotto software is managed around the number of procedures that are run through the software. So there's different costing levels on it depending upon the number of procedures that are run through the software. Doesn't matter how you could have 1,000 users of the software. We don't charge by the number of users, number of licenses, any of that. It's really just based around the number of procedures that's run through the software, and it is very cost effective. It's not going to have a ton of bells and whistles, but it's more around being convenient for you to be able to manage your system with. Does that answer your question? Oh, also, the second part of that question is yes, that is an annual subscription. That is charged based on the number of procedures that you run through the system on an annual basis. Again, it's another simplified pricing structure as well.
And hey, Ken,
yeah.
First of all, thank you for the answer. Ziggy, if you want to put it in the chat, if that answers your question, just so we want to make sure we clarify for you. And then Ken, I wanted to ask you too, like the perception of the visibility with the other customers that, you've used this service on, how does that help them, like daily, monthly, annually? Like, how has that changed the game for them per se, having the visibility now?
Yeah, again, excellent question. A lot of times it's been, lockout tagout it's a big animal, and it's hard for customers to get their arms around because there's so many moving pieces to it. So many requirements for training, so many requirements for audits, and these things need to take place on an annual basis. Using the software, this actually gives them a good guideline and something that they can use to help manage this entire process. A lot of companies, really, there's only about 20% of the companies that we deal with that are hitting on all cylinders with lockout tagout, meaning they have a compliant lockout program in place. Whereas we've got about 60% of the companies that we deal with that are hitting on most cylinders, but they're missing something. They might be out of compliance with the procedures. They might be out of compliance with their audits, but for the most part, they're still trying to run a lockout program. And there's really about another 30% that absolutely have nothing at all. So within that 60% group that are hitting on some of the cylinders, we can use this software bring it in, help them organize their program a little bit more and make it more fluid so that they can manage this whole process and, you know, start hitting on all cylinders running their lockout program. So again, about 70% of the violations under the OSHA standard for lockout tagout fall within the category of machine specific procedures. And this software provides them a platform to be able to manage that whole process. So makes it a lot simpler to run and manage a lockout program. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much for that clarification, Ken, because I know Larry Newport was mentioned in our pre-calls back in July, that line of sight to the sites was really important to him. So I appreciate you clarifying that on the call today. And I just want to give you a heads up too, sir, that we have about 10-15 minutes to go for your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of a total value proposition, there's really only 2 companies in the world that can do everything related to lockout tagout, meaning they've got all of the services that they can provide along with a robust software they can provide, and by the way, handle all of the equipment that you would need to manage your lockout tagout program, and Masterlock's being one of them. So when you think of lockout tagout, you know, Masterlock provides an entire robust solution for you to be able to help you manage your lockout program. You know, and this isn't a one and done. Masterlock doesn't have that methodology. You know, it's more of a teach the man to fish and assist where needed on the long term. We want companies able to maintain and sustain a long-term program with our help and with our abilities. And, you know, we've got territory managers out in the field that are there to assist with any application needs. Say that you bring in a new machine, you're not exactly sure what devices you would need to purchase for that machine. They could come in with their expertise and assist with the products that they can match up for that equipment to help bring it down to a zero energy state. So it's really a long-term proposition. We want to partner with our customers for the long term instead of just come in and check the box, because at the end of the day, you know, a year from now, you're going to be in the same boat if it's just a check the box activity. So yeah, think of Masterlock as a long-term solution and somebody that wants to partner with your facilities, with your safety managers, with your maintenance managers, and helping them maintain a long-term lockout tagout solution. Arc Flash, really quick. We brought Arc Flash in about 1.5 years to add to our offering. It just really made sense as it goes really hand in hand with lockout tagout. And again, our technicians are top notch. These guys, we provide a lot of things within our Arc Flash services that most people don't. And one of the things is, okay, for instance, if you need qualified worker training, you know, a lot of our competition's offering a 4-hour class that they're using for a qualified worker program. But, you know, the NEC code is really 130 pages long of code around electrical safe practice. You can't get through 130 pages of the NEC code in 4 hours. So it's not, you know, they might be selling compliance, whereas we're selling safety. We've got, you know, an 8-hour course to cover that, or a 2-day course to get the qualified worker and do the skills assessment on the qualified worker. Arc Flash is definitely something that is, you know, always on top of mind for companies, especially every 3 years with the NEC code changing and the assessments that need to be performed. This isn't obviously on an annual basis, but every 5 years, a new risk assessment needs to be performed within your sites. And then, of course, the training for your qualified workers need to be accomplished every 3 years. It's a legal requirement to comply with OSHA, NFPA 70E, and the NEC, not to mention the IEEE. But we have a very good solution in place, too, that's extremely comprehensive. One of the things that we do as well when we're doing an Arc Flash assessment, we provide as a complimentary a short circuit survey as well, which a lot of our competition doesn't. So that's inclusive, and we'll have a report out on your short circuit study as well as a number of other things that we provide within our Arc Flash assessment program. With the Arc Flash program, we also provide infrared thermography scanning. We do the evaluations, assessments, audits, inspections, as well as the training on a 2, 3, or 1 day refresher course. And then we also have a train the trainer program, and the qualified worker program is part of our offering as well. So to the gentleman's point, if you've got a arc flash assessment that is coming due, by all means, think of Masterlock through Grainger. I think that you'll find that, you know, our deliverables are top notch, and you'll be working with some of the best in the industry, and it'll be the best in class solution, I think, for your needs in arc flash or lockout. So with that, I wanted to highlight the fact that this is the list of our territory managers that work nationally. We align very well with Grainger and their footprint, and we work very well together. You know, my role within the company is to establish platforms for lockout, tagout, and for arc flash at a corporate level, and help drive those to their multiple site locations, utilizing this group of individuals along with the aligned Grainger account managers, national account managers, et cetera. And we help drive compliance within your facilities in providing a customized platform that's standardized, so that's easier, you know, at a corporate level to get your arms around for the audits, the assessments, et cetera. So with that, if anyone has any questions, that's about the end of my presentation. I was either very thorough or I put everybody to sleep.
No, you were very thorough, Ken.
Okay, thank you.
No problem at all.
Ken,
Matthew's,
this is David, I appreciate you, you know, going through that very diligent, as you said. And so all those within memorialization, you know, if you want to reach out to me any further, just as far as next steps, as Larry alluded to, a lot of our self-assessment scores were low in lockout. And, you know, I think this, in addition to some of our arc flash scores, would be able to help kind of close that gap on a big outage that a lot of us have. So again, thanks, Ken.
You bet. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Grace had a question as well. I noticed the most missed step in lockout tagout. Again, that falls within the machine specific procedures. There's a lot of times it takes an enormous amount of time and effort to write all the machine specific procedures in a plant environment. And once that is completed, but you know, if you're doing it internally, a lot of times by the time you get done, it's time for the audits. So I would say auditing of the procedures on an annual basis is one of the biggest misses. Another thing that I see a lot is people forget to review their lockout policy on an annual basis. That has to be reviewed too. You know, and in the event, you know, heaven forbid, should you have an incident in your plant location, you know, OSHA's going to come in, they're going to do their investigation. When they do their investigation, they're going to be looking at things like, when was the last revision of your lockout policy? They're going to go through your lockout procedures. When was the last time that those were reviewed and notated as having been reviewed? They're going to check the dates on all of that. They're going to check the dates on the training. You know, but even the training, there's a lot of shortcuts that are taken in lockout tagout. Even arc flash, you know, a 4-hour training course for arc flash is not going to get it done. Your authorized employees are not going to be well rounded just going through a 4-hour course. So you know, a lot of companies have a lockout awareness course, which doesn't qualify under the OSHA standard. But I mean, it's all over the board. There's misses because, again, lockout is a big animal. But I would say predominantly the biggest misses is with the machine specific procedures.
and hey, Ken, it's Nikki. Would you agree that sometimes in the field or at the site that it can be challenging for the employees to actually verify the lockouts, right? Because there's a lot of steps. Does that sound familiar? We used to hear that a lot in the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. And it depends on your lockout culture, because there's some companies out there are very adamant and they really drive a strong culture. There's other companies that have, lockout in place, but a lot of times they're authorized employees. If they can cut corners and skip it and be, there's a lot of push to be productive. You got to meet the productivity levels. And so they're gonna rush through something, and if that's the event that they're rushing through something, they might cut corners in order to maintain a level of productivity. So absolutely, that's I've seen that. I've actually been on site when somebody got caught doing that, and was written up for it. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to cut corners within lockout, but it's really around your culture, and that's really where our training pieces really make sense. We've got training that we provide, that we offer. We've got a lockout leadership course that I'm really high on in helping drive culture around lockout. And what that does is it selects key members off the plant floor and develops them as to be the subject matter experts over your lockout program, and they basically become lockout coaches. And what we find is, we want them to positively reinforce lockout tagout, and we train them to do so. But when you give that piece of ownership over a program to multiple people within your plant environment, then they have ownership, and so they become proponents of that program, and so they help drive compliance throughout the system, because now they've been given a little responsibility over it instead of dictated to as to what you will and will not do. So that's one of the things that I think helps drive a stronger culture around lockout tagout within a plant.
Hey, Ken, there's another question in the chat. Are these programs offered in Spanish?
Yes.
Pretty straightforward. Thanks.
But it was a yes or no question.
We want more of an explanation, Ken. No, I'm kidding.
No, I can explain that more. So our service provider offers that in Spanish as well. We do work in Mexico, in Latin America. So not only we can write procedures in Spanish, but we can also provide training in Spanish as well.
Perfect. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Any other questions? I think Nikki, if there's no other questions, you can jump into the call to action for our Grainger sellers.
Okay.
I'm going to chime in real quick.
Perfect.
Can I chime in? Can I dig
Oh
in?
yeah, absolutely. Is
So-
that Mark Ziegenfuss? Go ahead.
One and only. Ken, thanks for the presentation. It really opened my eyes to lockout, tagout, and the relevance to arc flash. Going back to my original question. So if I were to create or have Masterlock create SOPs, standards of procedures on certain machines 1 year, and we can edit them and adjust them without the software, can additional machines be added to that without the software, or do we have to wait till the next year to add them in?
No, you can change those using the format, because again, it's an editable Word format. So as long as your computers have Word, which most do, you can basically copy and paste and make those edits yourself and internalize that however you'd like.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Ken? Okay, well, listen, team, what next steps will look like, let me share really quickly with you. For our Matthews partners on the line today, Amanda will be sending out the presentation that was presented today to Larry, Dave, and Paul, and we will ensure that the sites receive the presentation so you have all the information that you were able to listen to today. As far as our Grainger team next steps, for the Grainger field team, we're really looking for you to to, have the Masterlock assessments at your sites. Start with your site champion, review the offering that was presented today, discuss, a vendor visit possibility. So your Masterlock territory representative can come out and assess the facility for you and get a proposal in front of your team members if that is what is best for your site. And also for our Grainger team, we'll be looking for you to update. We will have our Smartsheet measurable tracker listed for you in our Microsoft Teams channel. So we'll be looking for you to update that information as well, along with documented value, because again, Grainger team, we really want you to take credit for the value that you're bringing. We do know that this is a corporate ask that Amanda is tasked with providing the documented value receipts back to Paul and the corporate champions. And we want you to focus on hard cost savings like cost in use and continuous improvement. Both of these two tasks, Grainger team, we're looking for you to do before the end of this month if possible. And again, we'll be looking for you to update your Smartsheet seller tracker as well. And then continuous and ongoing Grainger team, it's always best practice to utilize your field safety specialists when in the field, utilize their expertise and their knowledge to partner the best way possible when at your facilities. And if there would be any additional questions around lockout, tagout, or arc flash needs. And again, that will be just ongoing. And Grainger team members, I know that we have our own separate internal call this coming Friday, the 19th, and we'll review any and all information with you as well again, because I do know how busy you guys are in the field, and I appreciate you very much being on the call today. And I very much appreciate not only the corporate support from Matthews, but all of the site level champions that are on this call. Again, the support means so much. And I really thank everybody for their time today. Ken, fantastic. Thank you so much for all of the knowledge. Thank you for everybody who participated with the questions. And Amanda, I'll leave it to you to close out the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. Well, guys, this was, one of many that we're going to have and continue on. Please know you can always, reach out to myself. If you don't have my contact information, reach out to Larry or Dave, and they can provide it for you with any questions or concerns. I know there's probably people on the line that do not have Grainger aligned sellers, just the size of your facility that we do not want to leave you high and dry. I am your go-to person if you do not have a Grainger rep. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. But thanks again, everyone, for the time. Looking forward to continuing these moving forward. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.